Oh my God. Yeah, right. He sends once a week.
Since I left, I've been text all the time.
Yeah. He's been busy. He's everywhere. And then if I don't get a clip from him, I get a clip from him about Barry. So we're on Barry watch in this space. Yeah, we love him. All right, what do you guys got? I know you talk to Mike every day, right? So I probably don't have anything really informative. So we're good. Oh yeah, he did. So he got behind the curtain, the mic curtain, a little bit.
Yeah.
He trusts you guys.
More than we wanted to hear about.
Yeah, I think I know where that's going.
Yeah.
I can almost guess.
Kind of, what are these meetings like for you? What's your typical day like?
Yeah, I just report to the war room, listen to what's going on, put an ear to the ground, meet some of the people that I haven't met, maybe some new additions, stuff like that inside of the war room, just have baseball conversations. And I'll do that 3 or 4 times a day, check in for about an hour at a time, and then have different responsibilities. So the winter meetings for me are about the things that I have to do, and then the conversations I want to have. So I have to do certain things, schedule certain things, and I enjoy that part of it, connecting with you guys, connecting with other people. But then the things I want to do are just be a part of this team, this amazing team in the front office. And I don't have a lot of input, but I like to listen, and I like to just be around those guys. I see them a lot. I'm over at Salt River, but I don't see them every day like I used to. So it's nice to be reacquainted with them. No, I have not. And I know the Cattell question is probably a big one for everybody, but he's a good player, and I'm sure that teams want him and ask about him for every right reason. So on that, I haven't gotten that far. I'm not going to allow myself to, because he's a great player. He's continuing to work hard. I've been in touch with him through the course of the off season, and it's just everything's business as usual for me. But I know that there are some rumors, but I don't really know much about those. But I'm not surprised that teams are smart. They want good players on their team. And I'm not surprised that people are asking about them.
Will you keep in touch and just text you certain things when it's working out, stuff that you said?
Yeah. And he's actually really good at getting back to me. But everybody is. I've asked him to, because I've gone through this little period of time with him where I send him a text and don't hear from him for 4 or 5 days. So not him, everybody. I think everybody understands, like, when I text you, text me back, and I'm not gonna want to go over things for an hour. I just want to check in and hear how you're doing. So let me know. So I've been texting with probably 75% of the guys and had good responses. Some I see at Salt River. Some I will get on the phone and talk to. And yeah, I was down in Cabo for Gallon's wedding. So I had a chance to visit with him and the others that were there. And that was really nice to get away from the grind of what we do every single day and see him in a different venue. Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to just speculate. I have had conversation with him about it, and he's professional. I think he understands the business part of this game, and he's doing okay. He's doing okay. But Cattell he's a good human being. He's just a very kind-hearted human being, and I think it might have caught him by surprise a little bit. But I think he gets it. I told him just what I told you guys. Teams are smart. They want really good players, and he's one of the best in the National League. So I understand why teams are making phone calls on him. He gets that. Yeah.
Have you given more thought to that? What's kind of
Yeah. Yeah, I have. I've thought about it a lot. There's a few things that I think we need to tighten up from day one. It's about not making outs on the bases and saying it's the beginning of the year and it's okay. Or not picking up the baseball at a fast pace because it's the beginning of the year and it's only error one, but they all matter. And I don't like making simple mistakes at all during the course of the year. And I want to amplify how important it is on day one to be as ready as possible. So, yeah, I've been talking to a lot of different people about some of the drill packages, maybe some things that I'm going to do a little bit differently. I'm probably going to have a Monday meeting get in front of the team every Monday and say, these are our objectives. We're going to have 5 weeks of spring training, 5.5 weeks of spring training. This is our objective for this week. By the end of this week, I want to be excellent at this, and this. So they know by the week what my thoughts are. Typically, I allow the coaches to do that. But I think if the messaging is coming from me, I think it'd be a little bit more, a little bit more insightful, a little bit more of a crisp message. And so that's one of the things I've thought about. But drill packaging and stuff like that, we're still going over that, talking about that. Believe it or not, I talked to Ronnie a little bit about some of the things that I want to do. She wrote down some things that she thought would help. So that's been my starting point so far.
Torey, can you talk about Zach Gallen's baseball IQ?
Yeah.
And what type of teammate he is?
Extremely high baseball IQ, and a great teammate, a great human being, and he understands every day what he's got to do to get ready for that start day. And then there's just a process and a routine throughout the course of the remaining days that's going to help him get better. He doesn't have a sit still gene in his body. He's trying to get better every single day. And I have nothing but great things to say about him.
Pitch adjustment when things aren't going well with one or two pitches.
Yeah.
How does he do?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I know from the inside out that he gets frustrated because he wants things to always be there for him. So I know that he always battles a little bit of frustration when it's not going well, but he probably gets a little bit more inward and starts to resolve it on his own, which is a great trait. I love when players can step back and say, I got this. And there's some cues, catcher's cues, pitching coach cues that he likes. But for the most part, I think he's internal when he's trying to make these adjustments, because it's not always there. Every pitcher doesn't have it when they go out there and take the bump. But he's really good at stepping back and figuring it out on his own. One of his great qualities. Was I around him on Saturday when the reports were coming out? Yeah, I was probably 4 feet from him, but I don't think he had any idea what was going on Saturday. That's just my gut feel. So, yeah. So, I think Zach is very dialed in. He's very smart. He's very in control. I'm sure he understood that things were circulating, but I know what kind of a human being he is, and I know what kind of a partner he is, and he probably pushed it all aside to make it about his wedding day and his wife. I guarantee that. Without even talking to him, I guarantee that happened.
No, I want to ask you about roster construction in general. This is kind of
Yeah.
that the season is so long, so many months.
Yeah.
To track it over a period of time. Is it difficult to establish a style? What I mean by if you lack power, then you go to small ball, manufactured runs, or if you're a power team, you rely on that. Is the season too long to create a kind of style that the players could rally around, be part of the culture, be part of the identity?
Yeah.
And use that as a catalyst towards success?
Yeah. My answer is no. The season's not too long. So I have unbelievable coaches built around me. We talk a lot about this. What does our team look like in your eyes? And I ask these questions a lot. Last year we were a team 24. We were a team that could put the ball in the seats and we were going to bang the baseball. And that seemed to be a little bit more of what we were going to be capable of doing last year in 25. So we were going to play a little big ball and just get on base, pitch well enough and score a lot of runs, which we did. But when we traded some of the people that we did mid-season, you can see that our identity changed a little bit. We got very athletic and very fast, started to pick up the baseball. And I think we started to play more of a small ball brand of baseball. So yes, I manage the team that we have. I'm not going to force, a team that's going to put the ball in the seats to bunt and execute. I want them to impact the baseball, and I just think you got to be in tune with the players. Players got to be in tune with you, and the messaging's got to be clear. And I think there's a lot of communication that goes into it. And then I would just talk to them about, look, this is how we're trending. This is what we look like in my eyes, and can we get there? And I think there's got to be buy-in. So I create that through the communication. But yeah, our identity changed. We went from putting the ball in the seats, winning games 10-8, to picking up the baseball, executing, winning games 5-2. And I like that kind of baseball.
It's December 9th. You seem like a guy that's probably thought about the challenges. I know it's early.
Yeah.
What are your early thoughts on strategies for the challenges?
Yeah, I like it. And I think initially in early 2010-ish, 11, when they're starting to talk about some of the things that we're going to change. I'm a baseball purist. I love baseball, but out of necessity, the times have changed, and I welcome the fact that they're going to go to this system. Based on some of the questions that I've asked and the conversations that I had with people in player development that are very familiar with it, I saw it in spring training. I don't think I'm going to try not to allow the pitcher to make the yeah. They get very emotional. They hit their spot, and they want that inch and a half off the plate. And I think that's just what baseball's done over the course of time, right? They hit their spot, the glove's there, the catcher receives it well, and umpire is gonna call it. But I'm gonna mostly rely on the catcher first, and then potentially the hitter. I'd allow them to do it. As far as reserving or holding a challenge, that's, I'll instruct them. The impact of the game will determine if you should or shouldn't. I just don't want somebody up there randomly in the bottom of the second inning wasting our last challenge and saying that that's the end of it on an 0 fastball. I want us to be smart about it. So we'll instruct them. We'll talk about it. And we have very smart baseball players. They'll be able to make that adjustment. I think my fluoroscope guy is the guy I'm going to really worry about the most between us. You just keep going like this. Yeah. Yeah.
Just get your thoughts on him participating in that and the transition over the season really on the faces.
Yeah. I love that D Rose going back at it one more time. I think he's a perfect man for that group, and for us to turn Corbin over to him for a period of time, we're lucky that he's going to be in good hands. Corbin made us aware. He kept us up to date, myself and Mike, through text about what his intentions were and what he was thinking about doing. And when he finally made the decision, he was really excited about it. And the fact that he can represent his country really excites us. So we feel that way about all of our players that are going to be potentially playing the WBC. I think there's names I'm sure you guys have seen those names, but it's official that Corbin's going to be representing Team USA, and I'm so proud of him, and I know that he's really excited about it. I think he did that through his amateur career, where he's playing 18U, 16U, one of the best, and that's just continued. So it means he's a really good player. He's very deserving of it, and I know he's excited to go out there and help the team win a gold medal. The timing? I haven't been in touch with him in probably 3 weeks, so I don't know how he's doing right now. But when last time I talked to him, he was really, really encouraged about how he's feeling. He's in a good routine. Timing-wise, I've been just generically told mid-season, something along those lines, like heads up, it could be that long, a little bit longer. But we're going to be patient with him. We want to make sure that thing heals right. But he's in a good headspace, and that's the most important thing. But he's back in Miami, doing his rehab there. He's in good hands and taking care of himself the best that he possibly can. Yeah. I don't know. I think that the hitters are probably more excited about it than the pitchers. That's the general feel that I have. So pitchers are getting the ball maybe an inch to an inch and a half off the plate. They've been called strikes a lot. I get that.
Yeah, I'm not talking about challenging. I'm talking about difficult, not challenging.
The difficulties of it.
The difficulty of running from the plate is it more difficult?
Man, I don't know that answer. I would probably speculate on and say that the pitchers is probably a little bit more challenging. You're talking about last year without it, the pitchers that were coming up with it, pitchers coming up with it from AAA and then not having it in the big leagues. Oh, I got you. I thought you said challenge. It's hard for me to hear. Sorry, Dave. Yeah. That's a good question. I don't know. I always thought it was more difficult for a hitter. I always thought it was a little better pitching. Guys were able to land pitches, different counts. The 2-1 pitch in the minor leagues, a hitter feels like he has an advantage. A 2-1 count in the big leagues, I think the pitcher feels like he has the advantage. So the 2-1 pitch for me is a really, really big pitch. Defense gets better. Young hitters come up and smash balls in gaps, and people are standing there or run them down. So I think the hitters have a little bit more of a challenge. Pitchers just got to throw the ball over the plate and command the baseball the way they have, follow a game plan. I think there's more against the pitcher, more against the hitter having success would be my call. Okay, guys. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
It's been a couple of weeks since I did one of these. Just doing 3-a-days.
I bet you really missed it.
Regular season's going to be easy. just one time with you guys. That's it. Great.
How would you describe this process of decompressing from all your experience and then transitioning into an off-season mode and really decompressing?
It took a while, I think finally at the point where you can kind of peel back and reflect on the good and not just the wow, what just happened of Game 7. So it took a little bit of time. It took a little bit of avoiding watching highlights or anything like that for a while. But I think realizing how we kind of moved the needle forward and what certain players did, whether, Barger, Ernie, Vlad, there was a lot of great stuff going on. So trying to just focus on that now and how we're getting better in 2026.
How much during that time so that became players, devices,
A little bit of both. I think tried to, talk to them before they all left for sure. And then slowly starting to kind of get back engaged with them. But I think everyone kind of processes that a little bit differently. First time for, I think, almost everyone to kind of go through that, Game 7 of a World Series and be that close. So wanted to give some space, but starting to kind of get reconnected with the guys and feel like everyone's in a decent frame of mind right now.
How does it feel for you as manager to be part of the season signings of the offseason to keep that momentum?
Yeah, that was huge, and it happened really quick. I think just the initial Zoom call with him, you could tell he was pretty intrigued with what we were talking about. And I think that we obviously value him pretty highly. And it just kind of lined up, after the initial communication. Really, I think the deal was done within about a week, which is really, really rare, I think, at that point in the offseason. But I think it was important to kind of keep some momentum building, and thrilled that he's part of our rotation. We've been in love with this stuff for a while, and I think that there's a real opportunity for him to kind of continue to get better with what we can offer him.
When you look at your roster now, when you talk to us, where are the areas that you think you guys can still get a little bit better?
I think bullpen sticks out a little bit, and probably a bat of some sort. We're coming off of a really, really good offensive year in a lot of different ways, that we did it and scored runs. I'm looking, there was a time we did it without Tony, a time we did it without Bo for a little bit. So you feel good about your offense, but adding would be nice. And I think that's a priority. And I think adding another high leverage bullpen arm is another one. Yeah, you could see it kind of swinging to the other end of not just, wow, you guys have some cool stuff and some bells and whistles, and you've won. I think you can kind of see it going to people kind of seeking you out a little bit. The resources and the finances obviously help, right? And I think that word spreads, and I think getting to the World Series and being close to winning it obviously helps too, and having a really elite culture that guys can kind of be brought into, I think resonates with a lot of players. So you can definitely feel a difference this offseason, and even going back to last year, the year before.
So what are some of the things you guys message to Dylan in terms of how you guys take the next step to the I think might have helped in making the decision?
I think just, he's a really, really inquisitive mind, if you will, and I think we tried to kind of poke him with questions, certain simple things like how has your fastball grip evolved? It hasn't really, we learned in quite a few years, and okay, have you tried this? And he got intrigued with some of the things we were talking about. And I think that there's some delivery stuff that has been a little bit inconsistent, like every pitcher over the course of the last couple of years, but hearing how aware of all those things he was, and the openness to even start saying, hey, let's start thinking more about a changeup that I've thrown a little bit, and how can you help me develop it? I think that kind of caught his attention as well. And I think Toronto is a perfect place for him to kind of spread his wings a little bit as he gets a little bit older, the city. So kind of those things, and the fact that we have the people that not only know that stuff, but that can really coach it, I think was appealing.
How much do you think the progress of seeing how guys like Gosman, Chris Bassett, Robbie Ray, Fuji in the past on that front?
Yeah, I think that Pete and Sam and Graham do a great job. They're kind of like a three-headed monster. We always identify certain consistencies with pitchers like that, with stuff, swing and miss stuff, and then how you get it a little bit better. It could be something a catcher's doing. It could be a mechanical thing. It could be a grip thing. It could be a mindset thing, So I think having different people attack those areas is really important. And having guys that have had success with similar skill sets, I think players take notice of that too. You got to rely on the guys. We actually, it was funny. We met as a staff last week over at Clearwater Beach, and we talked about that for 3 days. Like how did that come to be as strong as it was, and what were the things that were done, right? And I think we have our opinions about it as coaches, but I think asking players, like, was it really this, or was it something we didn't see? So just like anything, when a player's going good, when he's swinging the bat well or pitching well, you almost want him to document, or write down what he's doing in that time. So where when it gets off the rails, he can go back to it. It's the same thing with a clubhouse culture. When you feel like you've really nailed it, what were you doing well? What were the players doing? What was I doing? What was my messaging or my demeanor like? And just go back to it if you need to. So we've spent a lot of time talking about it. At the end of the day, the players live it. The players drive it, right? But I think that it just becomes the norm, when new players do come in, whether it's Dylan or whether it's Cody or whoever it is, they're going to feel welcome to what has already been kind of established. No, I don't think I ever will, to be honest with you. I think I'll think about it, until, the day I leave this earth, you know what I mean? Unless you get another opportunity to kind of squash that one. But it was, there's so many things that, there's plays that get highlighted, right? There's the play at home, there's the Pajes catch, there's the home run from Rojas, that's just game 7. I can go back to, I think the craziest thing that people don't talk about is the bottom of the 8th inning with Ernie at second and Jimenez is squaring a bunt. He pulls back, slashes, and somehow Max Muncy caught that ball. I think that doesn't get talked about enough. So every time I kind of go down a rabbit hole, I find myself in a new rabbit hole, to be honest with you. So I'm doing it right now. You know what I mean? So it will take, I haven't watched everything, regular check down in a regular season, game over next day or that night, boom, you're checking tape, you're running back. I haven't done that yet. I don't know when I will. It'll probably involve a beer or two when the kids are asleep and I can throw some stuff against the wall, but it's, we'll see. But it's I'm starting to appreciate it from a fan standpoint. I know I told you guys I try to do that every day, appreciate the baseball part of it, not just the stress of managing it. So looking back at some of those things, you just appreciate it from a game standpoint. No, I mean Hoff took it especially hard. You know what I mean? After he was open about it to me and to the guys. I told him, look at your postseason numbers. Look at your first year with us numbers, which probably get inflated with some home runs that weren't home runs in every park. You know what I mean? Like Hoff was elite for me, and there wasn't another guy I wanted out there in that situation to get 4 outs to win the World Series. So like it was funny. My thought process in the 8th when Max is catching that ball was, am I going to walk Shohei in the 9th? I figured the first 2, Kike and Rojas, were kind of outs. Nothing against them, you know what I mean? But just how Hoff was throwing. And then that quickly changed. My thought process quickly changed after the 3-2 slider. But I don't think Hoff will have any problems moving on. I don't think Trey will have any problems moving on. I think the way that they're going to be welcomed back to the city and the country is going to be outstanding. And, baseball happens. You know what I mean? I think Biebs threw 11 pitches in that inning. It was like boom, boom. And it was like, all right, homer. Wow. Quick out. Hoff strikes out Will Smith and gets Ohtani out after the homers. They locked it back in. But I think they're going to be just fine going forward. They're going to be better for it.
You talked earlier about just there being like kind of a shift or an uptick in like player interest
Yeah.
playing for you guys. How has it shown up for you so far this offseason? What makes it noticeable that like coming off what you guys did last year, like this is more of a destination?
Yeah, I think you hear it a little bit when you start playing these guys in the regular season when they come into Toronto and what they say about the actual city and the stadium and the people. And then the off season, it started obviously later. So maybe the perception for me is that much different because we kind of hit the ground running. You're on Zoom calls with high profile players that are speaking very, very highly of the organization, the facilities, the players that are on the team and how they conduct themselves. So that's been a shift. I feel like in years past, with some high profile players, it's kind of been us selling us to them. Whereas I think the players know what they're getting into as soon as they start talking to us.
Why do you think that happened? Was it just simply a results thing? Or?
I think it takes time. I think it's kind of like a slow drip. I remember telling guys 3 years ago how cool our resources were. You kind of sound like a broken record. And then when guys start to get into town and see it, they kind of have a, oh, wow moment, So that takes time to bleed into everyone else. Getting to the World Series definitely helps. You know what I mean? The 2 teams that are last one standing, they're shoved down everyone's throat. You know what I mean? So I think within that, it was a likable team that played the game the right way. And they kind of wanted to see what we were all about.
The IKF Whit Merrifield, Justin Turner, some of your former players came out really strongly in defense of you guys. Just how do you view that play?
It's for one, I feel so bad for Izzy for getting all the blame. You know what I mean? Like Izzy's an unbelievable baseball player. So I think peeling back a couple layers, right? Now that I have the platform to talk about it, could we have done a better job of getting him off a little bit? Yeah. Another step or two. There's been video of Carlos kind of telling him where to go. What's not talked about, I think, enough is the fact that Will Smith likes to backpick to third with left-handed hitters up. It's something we talked about at length before the series, something that Carlos reminded Izzy of. And I think it finally came out. I think Max Muncy was talking about it a couple weeks after the World Series that they were actually about to put the play on. I think, or maybe I heard that incorrectly, or that they at least talked about it. So it's not runner at third going on contact, selling out. If it's a line drive, you're okay with it. It's bases loaded. A, you don't want to get backpicked. B, you don't want to get doubled up on a line drive. People have said, yeah, what are the odds that Varsh is going to line out to third? Fairly low, right? That's just where he doesn't hit the ball. So could we have done a better job of getting Izzy another step or 2 down? Yeah, for sure. I don't really think that he could have done much more. People have said, could he have run through the plate? Could he have slid head first? I do know from my vantage point, a play like that, we've all seen it a million times from our view, right? And in my head, with the way Varsh hit it, I thought one of 3 things was going to happen. I thought it was going to be fielded and Rojas falls backwards, game over. Fielded, falls, throws, a worm burner to the mound, game over, or field throw wide of Will Smith, game over. So when none of those things happened, can't tell you what was going through my head or out of my mouth at that time. And then you challenge the play, okay, it stands, and within 10 seconds, those same exact thoughts are going through your head on the ball Ernie hit to left. So again, we're going to use it as a tool to get better. You know, that sounds corny to say, holy cow, it's a World Series, but like, yeah, we could have told him to get off a little bit more, you know, and that it stings, it hurts. I've seen that video 3,000 times, and in 1,500 of them, it looks like Will's off the plate, you know what I mean? And the other half, it looks like he's on. So that's how close it was. That's why details matter.
What's it like for you when you have like the entire baseball world for like a week or two all the time? What's it? Do you try to avoid all that and shut it out?
Yeah, again, I try to. You know, when you're experiencing it in real time, you know, when we had the best view, you know what I mean? So again, I think when you go down that rabbit hole, then you go down the other one. You know, you go down a million more that happened just in Game 7. You know, let alone Game 6 or let alone Game 3. You know what I mean? There was so much that happened in that World Series. So many first pinch hit grand slam, back-to-back home runs, 18-inning game. I mean, like, lost in it is Lauer and Klein, like what they did in Game 3. You know, loss of Yamamoto. Like, who does that? You know, I hope he is still tired. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how the hell you do that, but it's there were so many things that happened. I try not to just pin it down on one thing. Say again.
Last year, you basically had no one to the center.
Mm-hmm.
How much does it impact your planning for this?
Yeah, Tony's going to be huge for us. You know, I think that he, you know, and speaking to him at, you know, the end of the year and postseason, battled to get back, you know, just to get back. He wanted to be part of it so bad. He wanted to get off 5-year deal. He wanted to get off on the right foot. It didn't happen. So he is motivated. He is hungry to get back to the player that we know he is. It's a big part of what we're doing. You know what I mean? So counting on, and again, I don't want him, I've told him this, I don't want you to think you have to do anything you don't do well. You know, you don't have to come back and hit 300 with 50 homers to make up for last year. We need Tony to fit in the way we know he can when we signed him. Everything, shoulders good, back is good. He's feeling normal. I was just texting with him last week and a couple days ago. Finally feels normal, so that's a good thing. And just get him in here and just have a normal spring training, hopefully. And the notorious slow starter that he is, hopefully we can speed that process up and hit the ground running. Yeah, nothing official yet, obviously, but I think when that does happen, hopefully, we're talking about a guy that has kind of reinvented himself, has kind of stayed up with the times of what certain pitches do and how you can generate swing and miss, and gotten in the strike zone a lot more than he was when he was with Pittsburgh. So it's kind of pitching today, you know, physical dude. I like the stuff. I like the velo. I think he'll fit in very well with other guys we have that throw changeups, even though they're splitters. They look like changeups, or changeups a little like splitters. I'm learning more and more about the kick change as we go, but it looks like a split to me, and I think I'll have fun talking to Kev and Trey about it. Yeah, definitely gonna be a starter. Yeah. Yeah, we're going to announce it probably later today or soon, but it's finalized. We have filled assistant hitting coach job. We have kind of backfilled Donnie's spot in a variety of different ways. I'm just giving those guys some time to kind of finalize it with the teams they were with, and you'll have that full list really soon. 1 is internal, and 2 from outside. You know, I think we had I was lucky enough to be, I think, one of the first ones to understand that he was going to be done. And this was before the postseason even started. So I think the way he put it, it was so cool because he came in with me, you know, and it was the same length of term and things like that. And he said, I've done everything that I can do for you, and you don't need me. And I am good with how I'm going to leave this organization. He did the hitting, he did bench coach, he did so many things. I think that he's at a point in his career where family is really important to him, and spending time with Louie and Lori is really important to him. And he told me, he said, I don't know what I'm going to do. He said there's probably one opportunity, which you guys have all heard, a really unique opportunity to work with his son and Rob, who he knows really well. And if that wasn't the case, he probably would have been a travel ball dad, or, you know, I still say he should be a Hall of Fame travel ball dad, you know, and I'm upset that he isn't, but this situation worked out to where it was an opportunity he couldn't pass up. But I think he did it the right way. You know, he put everything he had into every single day. He made my job in life a lot easier. And for me, I think, I'm assuming he's going to say the same thing. I gained a lifelong friend in the time that he was here. So I wish him nothing but the best. Can't wait to take him out to dinner in spring training.
Ross expressed an interest at the end of the regular season, or at the end of the playoffs, to sign you to an extension. How optimistic or hopeful are you about getting something done?
Yeah, very. You know, I think this is the only place I've been. You know, I think that we're enjoying what we have built so far. Myself, him, Mark, and I want them to enjoy it too. You know, so right now the focus, we've talked about it briefly, preliminary, if you want to talk, you know, say that. But right now I want to focus on how are we making our team better. And I expect and hope that there's going to be a time where we kind of sit down and talk more about it. And there's nowhere else I'd rather be. You know what I mean? I've been here for a long time, and I want to continue to be here for a long time. And, you know, Mark and Ross, they both know that.
John, you're a player, the first guy. Getting recognized in the manager of the year, that mean anything to you?
It means, yeah, you know, it does. Again, I think it's such a weird award, you know. Just kind of looking back at previous winners, and I'm like, man, these guys will get fired soon after this. You know what I mean? Oh, maybe second is good. But it's a weird award. I mean, it is a direct reflection of your team, and I am very fortunate to have awesome players and awesome people. And I'm the one that sits here and talks, so I'm the one that gets recognized. But I said win, lose, or draw. I was the manager of the team of the year, in my opinion. That would have been an awesome honor. I don't think it's something you can deflect. And I think Steve is an unbelievable manager. And it was cool to get recognized, but to me, it was cooler to be the manager of the Toronto Blue Jays.
That's all we have time. Thank you, everybody. That's all we have time.
Yeah, I think they're great players, and I think that we have interest in great players, and those three guys definitely have been on our radar. Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Was it a good morning?
So far, it's pretty good. Yeah. No, it's been good. You know, doing a lot of work in the office, in the room up there, and trying to figure out where we're at. And you know, it's one of those things where, okay, if you sign this guy, we go this way. If you don't sign this guy, we got to go that way. So as long as you have those plans in place, then you got to execute it, obviously. But so far, so good. Pardon? Well, we've always wanted him back. It's not done yet. So, but it's, you know, he's so different than most of the guys I've ever been around, because he's got that. He's a great player, one, and he knows how to bring the heartbeat of a clubhouse down when things are going rough. So, and not only the clubhouse, but individuals as well. So he's just I've talked about it on end. He's just a huge part of our ball club.
So he'll be 37. What would give you confidence that you can maintain high level throughout that?
I think just his work ethic. You know, the body's gotten better over time. I mean, he's in the best shape of his life right now, and I don't think that that's going to change. He's so intelligent. He sees the game a little bit different than a lot of other guys, and he works at it, watches a lot of film. I think there's a really good chance that he's going to maintain this level. I mean, this was an unbelievable year for him. So I don't think we can expect this every year, but I still think he's going to be a high level performer. Texted. Yeah. So that was it. Just hope everything's going well, and you know, that was about it.
Could he? I know you guys kicked around the spring, and he's
happy to get more reps at first base? Is that something you guys work more out, or do you just kind of envision the same arrangement you have?
Yeah, we could get him some reps there, get him some reps in left field to give somebody the day off or half a day off, get them off their feet. But it's not going to be, it's not going to be a consistent thing.
Early in the season, you moved him behind Bryce. And that kept that way for a while until Bryce got hurt, and didn't go back to that once Bryce came back. Is that something you'll rethink doing, maybe to
Yes.
protect Bryce a little more?
Yes. And I've got some ideas, but I haven't talked to the players yet. So I don't want to talk much more about that. But yeah, I've thought long and hard about it.
Can you speak to maybe why you didn't go back to that arrangement when Bryce got back? Was it just a matter of how well Schwarber was hitting in that 2 spot? Or?
Yeah. And the fact that Harper was protecting Schwarber too, so, and Schwarber's having at that point a career year, and I just didn't want to mess with it.
You talked before, Rob, about you can do what you want, whether it's stay managing, not managing. You're happy with where you are. What led you to want to be here for 2 years?
It always comes back to, for me, are you having fun? Are you enjoying it? Are you getting in somebody's way? Are you getting in the way of winning? And I'm still enjoying it. I love the organization. This is the only place I want to go. I don't want to go anyplace else whenever I'm done. Because I love the people and I love the organization, from the owner to Dave to all our player development people. It's just a group of people that really come together and want to win baseball games and want to win a championship. And that's what I like.
I'm sure you're aware about the treatment Bryce Harper recently. I was curious what the level of communication is between the organization and the players in terms of medical treatment in the offseason. What thoughts you had of that? Such an important player going kind of off the board.
Well, I'm not sure if it's off the board. We didn't know anything about it. It's an elective procedure, and I think it's designed to help in recovery. But other than that, I don't know very much about it because it's a new procedure. Yep. Yeah, no, he's doing good. I talked to him a lot, obviously, after the game. The next day, the following day, he came in to pack up, and we had another chat. And then I talked to him a few weeks ago, and I think he's in a good spot.
Rob, after the loss to the Dodgers, the locker room with you and all, it was real emotional. And we've all seen end of season losses and all, but this one seemed a little different, like more emotional. Can you speak to why maybe that was, or did you notice it also?
Yeah, a little bit, because I think guys are probably a little bit frustrated that we've been there and we've been close and haven't gotten it done, and I think that's great motivation going into next year. But yeah, I think there's some frustration there. It was a hard-fought battle. I think everybody in that clubhouse felt like this was the year, or last year was the year. So it was heartbreaking, to tell you the truth.
Dave and Preston both talked about they're going to try to get a new change of scenery. This offseason, do you think a change of scenery would be good for Madison?
No, I haven't talked to him, to tell you the truth. But I still respect Nick, because at the end of the day, what he wants to do is play every day. And you can't dog a guy for wanting to play every day. I've been around plenty of people that didn't really want to play every day. That's not my cup of tea. So, but yeah, I think that in some cases, it is good for guys to have a change of scenery and, go to a different place, and that motivates them in some certain way or helps them in some certain way. But whether that's the way it is with Nick, I'm not sure. I think it can be better, yeah. And we've got some ideas that, again, obviously you got to execute those ideas and those plans, but I think there's some good plans in place, and hopefully we can execute it so that we can be more productive. But I think the opportunity's there. I have not. It's tough, he's in Venezuela, and it's tough to get a hold of those guys sometimes. So usually I go through George Volandia on that, and I'm sure in the next week or two, sometime before Christmas, I'll reach out to him. Well, I think he's probably going to do the same thing. He's going to try to be in the best shape he can coming into spring training, and he was in great shape last spring training, throwing the ball well, and all that other stuff happened. So it was a little bit of a shock, but I'm sure we'll get the same Jose Alvarado back that we've had in the past. Oh yeah, I mean they love him, and I think he really loves playing in Philadelphia. I really do. He does so much in the community, so much in the clubhouse. I mean, there's more to him than there are a lot of guys, because he just brings a lot to a lot of different people. Well, I think there's going to be some changes, even if we sign both those guys back. There's still going to be some changes. So, and there might be some change within the lineup as far as, the order, which could infuse a little bit of energy. But, we won 96 games last year. So it's not like, we're not doing well, and we've got a good club. And no matter what happens, we're still going to have a good club.
One thing the Phillies haven't done a lot since you've been manager is bring rookies and prospects through. It looks like that's going to start to change with guys like Justin Crawford. How do you anticipate bringing young guys into the club?
Well, I always think when you bring a young guy up, close your eyes and let him play. And no matter what happens, he gets 2-3 months, whatever time limit you want to give him, and don't even talk. Just let him go. And I think that the guys that we have at the upper level of our system are performers, and eventually they're going to perform, even if they get off to a slow start. And that's why I say you just got to close your eyes and let them play and leave them alone, and let them work themselves out of it, because these are the type of guys that can do that. They have the makeup, and I think they can handle it mentally and emotionally. Because Philly's a tough place to play. I have, but I really want to sit down with our minor league, or especially our AAA staff, because they know more about it than I do. But I think I'm going to really like it. I liked it last year in spring training, and I think the players really liked it for the most part. There's a couple of guys that weren't real keen on it, but I think for the most part, guys liked it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Hi. Yes. I just know that all the guys that are being posted from Japan are really good players. This really good pitcher. I think he'd be good in almost any rotation in baseball. Thank you.
This year, I've been to the last 3 or 4. The biggest difference this year is obviously it's a new group. So it's just kind of like getting to know everybody in the organization and spending a lot of time in the team suite, just kind of forming those relationships with the group and getting to know one another and kind of setting our tone for the season.
Does it feel different to be a manager than minor league?
It does. Yes. 100%. Yeah.
What kind of interactions do you have that you didn't have in the past?
I mean, I think first and foremost, just sitting up here in front of all of you is one different thing. Not quite the same in the minor leagues. But no, I think more often than that, it's just talking about where this group's headed, what our team's going to look like, just different situations, different scenarios that are going to come up throughout the season, kind of how we see X, Y, and Z. It's more of like kind of game planning in December versus, when you're a minor league manager, it's like, here's your club, now just go play.
What can you tell us about your coaching staff? What you like about the group? What stood out to you about those guys?
I think first and foremost, the most important thing for us as a group when we're building out a staff is we understand that players come from all different walks of life and different backgrounds, and we want to make sure we build a staff where each one of our players feel connected. So with that, I know most of the staff's trended younger. That wasn't on purpose. We weren't trying to get young staff. Someone made a joke like, did you tell Paul when you got hired that the staff has to be under 40 years old? I'm like, you might not believe me, but no. We wanted to make sure that the biggest thing is we bring in good people, right? I think, and then on top of that, this is a young roster, and the common theme from a lot of the players is just that like we have a long ways to go. We have a next gear to get to. We're in the big leagues, but we're also super young, and we want to continue to develop and get better. So we want a staff that's going to push us and help us kind of grow. That's kind of the staff we tried to build out.
Even if being young wasn't intentional, you are now at a point where it's like an abnormally young coaches. What about that dynamic makes sense?
I think just how up to speed they are with this day and age of baseball, right? Like, you have to adapt. The game's moving faster than ever. The information that we have access to now is more than it's ever been. It's just going to continue to become more. And it's not just having information. I think you want to bring in coaches that, one, understand how to interpret the information, and two, understand like when to deliver it to players and what to deliver to players, right? You can't just say like, here's everything, here you go, Mackenzie. It's like, no. Well, what do we want to talk about with this, and when's the right time for them to hear it? And I think a lot of our staff have a lot of practice at that and have experience with that, and they're really good at it.
Among these guys, did you already have relationships with? And then who was kind of like brand new?
From the staff?
Yeah.
I'd only say that probably 3 or 4 I knew beforehand personally. Obviously MJ coming over from Michael Johns, coming over from the Rays. Victor Estevez worked together with myself 5 years ago with Escogido, and I played against a couple of them and watched a couple of them from afar, and also like reached out to like Terry Francona for a long time on Simon, and reached out to different people across the game just to get some background information. And I think there's so many interviews when you're building out these staff, and it's so hard to get to know people in an interview setting that I like to go off of like people that I know that have worked with them, players or coaches, and understand really who they are as people.
You mentioned trying to map out like what the team might look like on the line, but also a lot of uncertainty given the rumors about Mackenzie, CJ, things of that nature. I guess how do you kind of go about building out what your vision is for the team and what will be there on piece kind of?
What's funny is I didn't really like prepare for this to happen, but coming over from the Rays, it's like what the Rays do every year, so it's like, it feels like it's such a weird thing, I think, to everyone when you talk about it, but it's like, man, this is every offseason with Tampa Bay, it's like, is it Tyler Glass now? Is it, who you name it? Like, there's somebody that's like, hey, the trade rumors. So you're always like, it's not like we're looking to move people or get rid of people. Like Mackenzie, CJ, these guys are great players, right? Like, we are always going to be open ears to what other teams want or what they're asking for. I think we'd be crazy or not doing our job if we're just going to shut down anytime a team reaches out. Credit Paul Taboni a ton. He reached out to Mackenzie and kind of told him like, hey, this is happening. We can't stop teams from calling us. Like, they are calling us. The information gets out there. Like, people are aware of it. So we can just be very transparent and upfront with like, hey, this is what's going on. If anything gets close, we'll be sure to let you know.
With the trade for Harry Ford, how are you going to approach the competition for the catching?
You can never have enough catching. It's really hard to get talented young catching, which we're excited with Harry. We're excited with the catching group we already have coming in. That's what we plan to go into spring training with. And then we add Harry when, Seattle reaches out. And we have this unbelievable, what we feel like unbelievable offer on the table. I think was great for both sides. Jose is an incredible pitcher. And Seattle's getting somebody that they're going to use in high leverage situations this year and the next couple of years, right? And like, I think both teams are going to look back at this trade saying that it really helped both sides. But on the catching situation in particular, it's like we want all these guys to come into spring training and compete. And I think you get the most out of players when there's a competitive environment. That's what we're looking to create.
I don't know if you've had the chance to reach out to Kate since
Yeah.
the trade. What would the message be to him about how he fits into this?
Yeah, just come in ready to compete in spring training. We think the world of Cabert. He's a heck of a player. I think his best days are still ahead of him. We told him, like, hey, you're still a big part of these plans. Like, come into spring training, be ready to roll, and let's see how this shakes out.
Like, how do you view the defensive lineman in the outfield, particularly for Dylan Cruz? Center field something that's going to be a priority moving forward.
Yeah, for sure. I think when you look at the group, between Dylan, between Jacob, like those are two pretty athletic guys that can play center field. And taking another thing from the Rays, like you look at the center fielders they've had defensively and just how much of a premium they put on that position. It's nice that we have two guys that can play out there, not just play out there, but play out there really well. And then you bring in Dalen, you bring in James, who, James was with, our bench coach, MJ was with James at IMG the last couple of days leading up to the winter meetings. And they were working on outfield defense. And MJ was like, man, like James, like really wants to be a good outfielder. Like it's somebody that that young that has had the success he's had offensively with the amount of home runs, like the fact that they actually want to go work on their pre-pitch and their first step in the outfield and in December is like pretty cool to see. So I think we have some options out there, not to mention, Robert Hassel, who we have big expectations for as well.
How did that meet up with James at IMG transpire? Like, whose idea was that?
As a staff, like one thing that we've talked about as a group is just like reach out to all the players, like form the relationship, start the ball rolling now. And it's a lot, right? If our players are getting calls we have a 12-person staff right now, it's a lot of people, but it also like shows them how much we care about them, want to get to know them, want to get this thing rolling rather than waiting till day one of spring training. So like, all right, here we go. Like, let's start that now. And it just so happened that MJ and James connected, and James is like, MJ lives in Bradenton, and James is like, hey, I'm going to be at IMG this week. And they're like, let's meet up,
Conversations with you guys in that vein with CJ Abrams, sometimes it's hard to get in the offseason. Like, he's a guy who's kind of in this place and had a lot of success, maybe having more to tap into. So, like, what's kind of the vision for you guys?
Yeah, CJ's been great. We connected over the phone. He's in Atlanta right now. He's working out at one facility, and then he's hitting at Maven in Atlanta. So he was like, hey, come down, let's meet up. Like, I want you to see where I'm hitting at. And I know their lead hitting guy at Maven, so we have that connection. And then Andrew Eit's going to see him at Maven from here. So like we already had a lot of conversation with CJ, and he wants us to be involved, and he wants our help and direction, which is pretty fun.
CJ's had a lot of success in terms of his range defensively, making a lot of different plays, but also the routine when maybe got in the way. Is kind of what you can do defensively in terms of those routine plays.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think we're going to see that happen with a lot of these guys, right? I think when you put a premium and make sure players understand how important defense is, once again, going back to the Rays, where I think they care about defense more than any other team in baseball. I think when players understand like how important that is, and they buy into it, that's when you get like the better work ethic. You get the early work done, all these different things. And I know I've already said this before, but like Dalen wants to work on his defense in the offseason. And it's like no one wants to work on their defense in the offseason. They want to go to the indoor cage or they want to go to the gym, right? Like no one wants to be like, I'm going to the outfield at my high school field in December and working on defense. But with CJ, it's a lot of the same things. Like, hey, defense is really important. You're young. If you want to play this game for a long time and play the game at shortstop with how good you are and how talented you are, you can make a lot of money and play this game for a really long time. If you stick at shortstop. So understanding the importance of that, that's the biggest thing.
Are you viewing CJ as shortstop and Luis as the second baseman, or is there thought of shifting them to the right side of the field?
No, I think we're happy with CJ at short. But to that point, like we talk about everything. Like not everything's on the table in terms of our defensive positioning with all of our outfield, infield, catchers. Obviously, the first base position, which we're all aware of, is like one spot that we're focused on as well. So whatever we can do to get our best lineup together, our best 9 hitters, like we're gonna make sure that happens. And as we built out our staff, I think you're gonna see a lot of people that are like defensive specialists that we've put together between MJ, between Smarslock, between Vic, Corey Ray, like all these guys, like. I think we're going to make some big improvements on defense to where we can play guys in multiple positions.
How are you preparing to manage a coaching staff? It's obviously a very different job in the majors compared to managing higher coaching staff. So what is your process of how to integrate that?
Yeah, I think, talking with Simon and Sean Doolittle and now Dustin Glant, who we're going to have with us as well, kind of running through each of the pitchers and seeing like, this is what they've done historically. This is what we see them doing. And then having conversations with those guys about where they feel best, where they feel most comfortable. And then also prioritizing health, as we know, with pitching just in baseball nowadays, with how hard these guys are throwing, you're seeing more and more guys go down. So trying to be a little bit more ahead of or proactive in planning what their innings are going to look like. And then mapping out starter roles versus relievers versus back end, whatever it might be.
I don't know how much you've seen up close with the challenge system in the minor leagues, or whether it's personal experience, but what are your anticipations for how that's going to work at major level? How much you looking forward to or dreading, or what do you think about that?
The ABS?
Yeah, ABS.
I'm really excited about it. Obviously seeing it in AAA for a while. One thing that it does is, you always hear the chatter from the dugout getting on the umpires, and it's like, hey, challenge it, let's see what you got. So I think one thing it's really good about it is that the umpires in the big leagues are really good. They're really, really good. And it's a hard job, man. You have to lock in for that many pitches, and then you miss one or one's borderline. You're hearing it from the dugout. It's not an easy job. So I think now just the challenge system, what it's done is it's all right, you don't like it, challenge it.
Do you sense having a philosophy about letting anybody challenge at any time, not letting pitchers challenge, catchers? Is that conversations you're already having?
Yeah, we'll talk about it as a group. Have some ideas about kind of what's worked in the minor leagues the last few years, and what has definitely not worked, and we'll make sure that the players are aware of that. I think so, but I think a lot of teams have somebody on their staff that's probably come up from the minor leagues that has some experience with it. But yeah, I agree. I think having seen it and used it the last few years, it definitely helps. What definitely hasn't worked? There's a few things, but we'll keep those between us for now. I'm sure you'll see them.
What is a successful 2026 season?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I've been asked this a lot. The more I think about it, it's hearing the group that is hungry for to be developed a little bit more, creating a culture where these guys are out on the field early. You come out to Nationals Park and, we have a 7:00 game and you see guys out there at 2:30, 3:00, working on their game. I think when the more the season goes on, the more you see of that, the more I feel like our culture is moving in the right direction. And if these guys continue to improve with how young they are right now, the snowball effect's just going to continue. And we're building up the minor league system as well with the people we've brought in to where once we create the culture of the work ethic and then everybody buying in and honestly everybody loving one another, it sounds like this group's tight already. Just seeing these guys pull for each other and have each other's backs. And then I think when we get to the end of 2026, regardless of how many wins we have, if the early work's really good, these guys are developing in their individual skills. I think it sets us up for 2027 being awesome.
Do you sense in your conversation with these guys that they are motivated to do what you're talking about, the extra work they're working at? They feel like
so that's
something.
For sure. That's what excited me the most, I think. Obviously, I didn't get to talk to these guys until after I signed on for the job, but I told Paul right away, I'm like, man, I was really excited about this, but every player I've called individually, they're like James Woods, I'm talking to him and he's like, yeah, last year was horrible. Like James, there's a lot of guys that are 22 years old that would take that season in a heartbeat, and he's like, yeah, but the end of the year wasn't good. And, I talked to Dalen Lau. I'm like, what are you working on? He's like, my defense is horrible. There's no reason why somebody with my athleticism is not a good defender. So I'm like, and then Dylan Cruz, the same thing. I talked to him and he's mad on the phone. I'm like, hey, Dylan, you got time? It's they're hungry. They're super motivated.
As a new manager, what's going to be your balance between just being I don't want you guys to be complacent, there is room for improvement, but it's okay to be proud of yourselves.
Yeah, there's definitely a balance, right? It's tricky because there's you want to be somewhere in the middle. But what I've noticed from this group is just they'll need a little bit of a pat on the back, but they're not going to really want it that much. I think they're going to want to be pushed more than they're going to want to be hey, you're really, really good. There'll be a time for that. I promise you that. Our coaches will do a good job at that, but they'll also, it just seems like a really hungry group.
Technology, the minor leagues, the major leagues, how does that for you, and how do you imagine incorporating that and then using that to help guide your players?
It's really important, especially, our coaching staff's coming from different organizations where a lot of these players, especially with how young this group is, like they've had access to that information coming up, whether it was in college, whether it was in the minor leagues, whether it was with their private instructors in the off season. So like they're used to having the information. So like we need to have it. Like it's hard to pull that away from them after having used it. So seeing it being a pretty big part of our operation.
In addition to,
You're next.
in addition to James and CJ, who else is doing like in-person visits within the coaching staff?
I've met with Mackenzie. I grabbed lunch with Mackenzie last week. Andrew's meeting up with Jacob Young. I mean, there's probably like 15 to 20 guys. Yeah, there's a lot of them.
So this is like a consistent thing that you're doing.
Yeah. And especially like with our coaches that live in different parts of the U.S., like Victor Estevez met up with Luis Garcia in Dominican. Like Victor's a manager in winter ball right now, and Luis was playing against him. Like they met up on an off day, and then he saw Luis play the other night, and he like texted me the report from the game. I'm like, you can focus on managing your team, but he's like, I'm ready to work. Let's go. Yep. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I think Albie's one that the best part about Albie is that you know where you stand. So like anything that I ask him, he'll tell me, he'll shoot me straight. But no, we've talked about this for a long time. I think we talked about being on a staff together. But to be honest, don't tell him this, but going against him is probably gonna be a lot more fun. So we've already joked around just about like, the Orioles Nationals playing against each other. And, he was like, should we get a house somewhere in between? Like, what do you think? I'm like, no, man, you do your thing. No, but joking aside, he's been awesome. And like we've bounced off different ideas against each other. And there's a handful of managers out there that have been super helpful. Even just Rob Thomson just now, like he's like, hey, anything I can do, let me know. I'm like, well, quit signing all these players, like, or just get out of our division. How about that?
Two more questions. To what extent do you see yourself maybe deviating from data on
Yeah, I mean, the information is so good right now, but a big part of it is like making sure as we build out our, our R&D and our analytics department that we feel really good about how the information is coming together, and then trusting those decisions and that information. I think coming from the Rays again, like Cashy does a tremendous job of that. That's something that he and I have talked about for a long time. And a lot of it is making sure your staff understands kind of like how this information is coming together and why we're going to behave a certain way. And then also there's a gut instinct to it as well, for sure. Come on.
I would make Dylan Cruz really quick. It's kind of been an uneven start to his big league career. What type of player do you think he can be? And what do you think he needs to do to get to that?
Yeah, I think the world of Dylan. Like, I'm so excited to get him in here. I think what we saw last year is not who Dylan Cruz is. He's such an explosive player, and he's had success like his entire life, right? And then I think a big part of why we see a lot of players, scuffle when they go from AAA to the big leagues is, one, it's the biggest gap in all of sports, in my opinion, going from AAA to the big leagues. Like the skill level, the difference there is huge. But Dylan, I think when Dylan understands like he can still be Dylan Cruz in the big leagues and be himself and have confidence that like, hey, I belong here, and I don't just belong here. Like I'm an all-star caliber player and believes in himself to do so. And we're going to support him with that and surround him with that, make sure he feels that way. But a lot of it for him is going to be confidence and believing in who he is. He doesn't need to change anything just because it's the major leagues now, right? And I think some players, it's easier for me to say than to do sometimes because there's a lot of pressure out there, right? But I mean, we think the world of Dylan, and I think he's going to take off.
That same thing applies to you too, right?
What's that?
Having been in the minor league for life and now having been like
yourself still. Yeah, same thing.
Not trying to do something different.
Right. That's kind of some of the advice that I've gotten, from Tito or from Cashy or Albie or whoever it might be, is they're just like don't change who you are, be who you are. There's a reason why you're in this role. There's a reason why you have the relationships you have with different players and staff members throughout the industry. Like, just continue to be who you are. And sometimes I'm telling Dylan this, sometimes I need to tell myself the same thing, right?
That's all the time we have. Thank you so much, everybody.
Yeah, thank you all. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's kind of chaotic. And then being a part of the Giants, I feel an extreme amount of pressure to do something. You got Jeff Kent's honor, Matt Chisholm, of course, with the official award, which is well deserving. And then for our clubbies too, Brad Grims and Gavin Cuddy also get an award. So I'm ready for more exciting news, I guess. But pretty cool. And to be honest with you, it validates, and because they win those awards, it doesn't come off as cheesy. When I first was walking around the park and getting to meet people one after another, I feel like I've got, recruiting, you got decent standards of how impressive somebody is, and just an incredible amount of impressive people that I met in the first few days. So it's good that it's validated by others stating how well accomplished those people are. Pat Murphy stands out because of the college background and having competed against him. And I wanted, during this process, Frank Anderson knows him well. Brett, his son, knows Pat Murphy even better. So everyone agreed, like, we better wait till the season's over, because he's as competitive as it gets. But he was still able to kind of, through Frank and Brett, kind of relay some things to me. And so I haven't seen him yet. And it's been busy. I don't know what I'm doing at this thing, to be honest with you. And then I had a very minor surgery earlier this week. So kind of battling through that a little bit. I crashed pretty hard last night, and I was pointing to my water because the cotton mouth is real. So probably need that a little bit. Yeah. Kind of something that just needed to be cleaned up, and glad to have it out of the way. Yeah, I think in talking with other people about pro sports in general, just because I've always been a fan, it's been hard ever since becoming a recruiting coordinator. You're paid, and you're better off knowing who the 7th best left fielder is in the country than you are knowing all the managers and everything else. But alignment in pro sports is very difficult. So I think getting along with Buster or kind of seeing things in a similar fashion is more important than anything. But yeah, you'd be crazy not to lean on him. If you're in any kind of competition and you're trying to win, he might be top, I don't know how you quantify it, top 10 people in the dang world to seek counsel. I think, to be honest with you, confidence that there is a translation from the college game. I know that's been a big topic, or might be a question coming, but that there's an appropriate translation there. And then also just the things they've done to, have success where they're at. I mean, everybody's kind of got their own brand. It's all Major League Baseball, but obviously it's 30 different teams, and you learn that when they're drafting your players or your signees or things like that. So what's worked for them, and how's it gone that way? So sure, you don't want to give up too many ingredients of the secret sauce, but some of it is pretty obvious. Like I said, when he was at Arizona State and Notre Dame, it was competitiveness at an incredibly high level, to an extreme, really. And so that should carry over at any level, you'd like to think. Yeah. Yeah, those 2 trips will take place next week and then the first week of January. So not nearly as well as you would think, or that I would like to be at a place with the players, because my answer would be more, I know the coaching candidates very, very well, either the ones we've hired or the ones we've considered. So that became an all-out project on top of some other things that came with this unique transition from the program I was very much a part of to now. So the biggest thing has been, that staff, and I don't know. I'm still learning what I'm allowed to do and what I'm not allowed to do in life, and also in this. But as far as the staff goes, the one thing we don't want to do is have to go backwards in any way, shape, or form. So it's been a patient process and a diligent one, and I've really enjoyed it. And it's one that's coming to an end here pretty quick. Or if that's a question, when will that be announced? I think it'd be much sooner than later.
What's the downside of your first spring training and a lot of players on the club maybe away from the WBC?
I think the WBC is phenomenal. I think there's varying opinions on it's case by case what a guy needs to do, in particular a pitcher with his arm and innings, but just that event in general is one of the more fun sporting events I've ever witnessed. I've never been able to be there in person, but just watching it on TV. So anytime you've got something going on, there's pros and cons. I think there's certainly cons to it, but I just think the event is phenomenal. So the guys that choose to, or the guys that are in a quality enough position with their body or arm to compete at that, I'm all for it. And I think the fallout is kind of worth the squeeze.
The Tennessee guys you brought up, can you speak to what stood out about them and how you anticipate the transition?
Yeah, I think the whole group stood out. I mean, it would have been, cool to just pick everything up and leave, but I don't know if there would have been any players left at Tennessee. There's a group effort that went on there to get the program to where it's competitive in a ultra competitive conference. But I think there's some guys there with big league experience one way or another. I mean, I think Cat's probably out of the bag on Frank. He's never been in a big league dugout, but he's been in a big league household with Brett. Those two are close. They've got a fun and a funny relationship. And I know, his involvement in Brett's career, I think not just coaching him, but just through the life experience, kind of provides him with some background that'll be beneficial for him. And then, Quinn Eberhardt too. Again, I don't know if I'm supposed to name names or not, but he's been at the big league level. He's been at the minor league level. He's now been at development at the college level, and also just has a personality that makes you want to be around him. And so with all that staff, I just finished with a Zoom upstairs. One comment I made with staff is you look externally to I don't know, what would fire up the fans or what'll win you games or what'll make the players happy. But selfishly, I was looking at too, where's or who are the guys that I want to work with or get out of the vehicle every day and walk into the park and be excited about just hanging out with. In baseball, there's a lot of work, but there's a lot of hangout time too. So certainly a group of guys I'm excited to do that with.
How do you anticipate kind of striking the balance of being your authentic self and being the guy who got to this position while also understanding that you can't just copy and paste what worked in college and into pro ball?
Yeah, I think, first off, speaking of managers or walking in the halls, I don't know if this is smart to admit, but I still kind of see myself as the kid that grew up, going to Whitey Herzog's coach teams games. And I'd go to Wrigley with my dad. He's from Chicago, cheering him on. And then even when Bill Miller was playing with the Giants, the only reason I was going to those games is because the tickets were free. And then also I was a fan. I mean, so for a while there, the Giants became my favorite team because of him. And there's still a little bit of that in me walking around. I almost kind of caught myself with my head down, there's a high level of respect for these people that are in the game. But for me, maybe because I was around my dad and all these athletic teams, I think it changes when you're in a building together as a group. We're a part of a team. And in order to be a good teammate, I don't think you can see yourself as above somebody. And I think it would be crazy to see yourself as below somebody as well, because you'd be cheating yourself and them. So I think for me, the balance is once we're in the dugout together, regardless of who's on the other side, or the doors are closed in a meeting, or you're just underneath the stadium in the concourse, in the locker room, we're all one group. And I think that's the same kind of across the college level, the high school level. It's just the athletes are better. These are the best players in the world. And obviously there's some of the smartest people, involved in baseball too, working.
And then, a lot's been said about you making this jump and kind of how unprecedented it is. Why do you think it took so long for someone to go straight from the college side to the pro side?
There's been assistant coaches do it. And I think for that direct jump, I think college baseball had to become closer to what pro baseball is. And we had I was given a gag order over argument over SEC, like what level is SEC play? And, it was fun hearing the debate back and forth, and they were all very well good points. And you'd never know because they're not playing against each other, and it's fewer games, and it's all these abstract things. But I think the college game has just gotten so good. It doesn't matter. You don't have to be in the SEC. You could be out at Coastal Carolina, or you could be on the West Coast. College baseball is now heavily covered by media. TV is a part of the deal. There's fans at every game, and the players are better. You name it. These indoor facilities that are in Wisconsin are producing guys like Gavin. So I think it's pretty great. And sorry to go on an even further tangent, but maybe this thing, and who knows if you want to call it guinea pig or sacrificial lamb, or this goes well or doesn't go well, who cares? I guess I should, but again, I wish there was somebody like with a shorter haircut and more reputable up here to say, like, it's time for college baseball and Major League Baseball to be married a little closer for a lot of different reasons. And I think working together ultimately makes Major League Baseball a better product, which is great for the fans. And then, money is a big factor in the world, whether we like it or not. Ultimately, if Major League Baseball is a better product, then there's more money, being made. So, but there's countless other reasons too why, if that, again, smarter and more responsible people can come together and join some ideas, I really think they can feed off each other. So I think that's the reason why.
Tony, being raised in St. Louis, a baseball city, baseball culture, what impact did that have on your DNA as a baseball guy?
I think those fans, and it carried over into Arkansas, and maybe, Tennessee to talk good about their fans, but like their Cardinal fan, they just seem to know the game and appreciate the things like a guy who hustles, or a story like David Eckstein, and a relationship with the community that Ozzie Smith and Willie McGee had. And then, Whitey Herzog was, he was as likely to be a poster on a wall as, Jack Clark. So it certainly, had something to do with it. And then baseball, why you could argue it's the greatest game in the world is the tradition is heaviest, or there's a heavier emphasis in any other sport on that. And my dad being from Chicago, going to Wrigley Field, if you don't feel that, you're missing out on it. So, and then, to combine it with my current job, that Giants Cardinals deal there for a while was, now I like Jeffrey Leonard, but if he would have showed up, on my street, there would probably been people trying to do some bad things. And, Kevin Mitchell caught that ball barehanded in Busch Stadium, if I'm not mistaken. I was at the Will Clark slide into second base. I was in right field. I had a good view of that whole melee. So it was pretty fun to watch that.
Do you have one memory from your childhood in St. Louis, baseball-wise, that stands out the most?
Probably up the road in Columbia, Missouri, to be honest with you. I was not a great player, and certainly was not a big league player. But I had a game where I started against Texas A&M, and my dad met me by the fence afterwards. And the things he said are, in a frame deal, and it'll go in my new office. And so that exchange we had was what stands out. Yeah. I can think of some of them right now. And some of them you were grateful, like you're never going to see them again, was your thought. And then others, if, you're competitive. Bregman's one of the best competitors I've ever seen in my life. And again, I've been a big sports fan. In the moment, there might be, things you say or feelings you have, but when the moment is over, it's kind of like UFC fighters or boxers. They were an NFL game. These guys were just trying to kill each other. But then afterwards, you have an appreciation because those are the people that push you the most or bring out the most intense feelings and emotions. So yeah, it'll be unique and it'll be interesting. But the one thing about all the reps in pro baseball is they change who you are as a person and who you are as a player. And that could mean for the worse, actually, at certain times. And a lot of times it means for the better. But overall, I think each of those guys will have a different look the next time I see them. That'll be tough. That'll be tough. I know one in particular I could see where we won't be friends during the game, but afterwards we'll embrace. But that'll be interesting. Because those are guys that I really feel because I wasn't a good player and I don't consider myself anybody that's gonna, the Giants are gonna be successful because I'm a great coach. That's just not gonna happen. Players are what got me to where I was able to keep moving down the line in college coaching, and I owe those guys a lot. And then, yeah. Sure. I'm excited. I think, just kind of my background is fortunate to have a great childhood. Thanks for my parents, but I was in a bubble, and there were some different things in there where it wasn't all kind of down one avenue, if that's the best way to say it. But as I've grown up, I've fallen in love with traveling, and this is a big world we live in. So it's fun to experience different cultures and get to meet different people and understand where they're coming from. And maybe you learn something that you make a part of your own life. So I'm kind of excited about that as anything. And, we'll go to a couple places either as a staff or I'll go on my own to go visit with some of these players. And part of it is work and part of it is me stealing a free trip to go see a new place because I truly kind of, enjoy that.
Tony, in addition to getting to know these guys as people, how have you gone about getting to know the roster and just the skills that these players have coming from the college game and maybe players as regularly?
Yeah, ears open for sure. Now with Blade, Tidwell, and then Drew going over, I started to follow all of a sudden. And those guys had reached out to me about those kids and their backgrounds. So things kind of picked up that way for me, getting to know the organization and in particular some of those players. But listening to these conversations upstairs, like I've probably talked too much at this point, and it's more out of excitement than it is knowledge, but just ears open and trying to get a feel for who these guys are. And then also being a little guarded. It would be great if I exchanged, 25 more text messages than Chappie and I have, or we've yet to hook up in person. But nothing's going to be like being in spring training and being around somebody every day. So I've been a little guarded too, to not jump to conclusions. Oh, he's this type of guy or he's that type of guy.
Ask about putting that regard because you've credited him with your success in Tennessee being a place where guys had a great power, a couple of places in basketball. I was curious, what does having a good conditioning program look like at the major league level, and is it possible to build meaningful advantage like you have in Tennessee?
Yeah, I think so. And he would be quick to, push out that, Joyce, broke the velo record or whatever it might have been. And then there was certainly never an emphasis on home runs, but drove a bunch of balls over the fence while we were there. He would be quick to point out that's a group effort. And, Gresh being on our training staff fires everybody up in the strength conditioning department. And then Q being added is awesome, but it's a whole group. So as I've learned, the staffs are bigger, the media is bigger, everything is on a grander scale. So it first requires everybody to work together to make it an advantage. But if you've got good people in place, I think any advantage you can find is beneficial. The record is so interesting from last year, and I know it doesn't meet the standards of the Giants organization, but you're split. It's 81. So even guys just staying healthy as far as strength and conditioning or the coaching staff and the training staff all working together, maybe that's a difference in one game. Now at least you can call it a winning season, which I know, it doesn't fire everyone up just to be at 82. But then if guys are a little bit stronger in a certain area, and you can start making up those inches that I think everybody upstairs has been talking about.
Do you think you can make a difference getting this team to the postseason as a manager? How do you see that? And how do you see the Giants within this division going up against the Dodgers, the Padres, and the Padres?
Sure. I think the first part, I think I want to do a good job, and that's kind of always been my criteria. And I think I've formulated it over the years, especially following my dad's teams. But with all due respect to him, I don't think he could even affect what, my opinion is of a good job. So that's kind of what I'm going to hold myself to. And I think if I am doing that, then I'm helping in some form or fashion. But, I just talked about everything being bigger. The players are the ones out on the field, and there's a whole group of people that are going to be working to make the organization, a winning one. And so whether you want to call it making the playoffs or having success there or coming close or having a better record than last year, I've never been a part of a big league season. So we'll see. I'm just trying to figure out what's going on here at the both hotels that we're occupying. So, but with the teams in our division or that are out there in general, I think, again, I don't know what you're supposed to say or not. Sounds like the Phillies got better today. There's the best players in the world, and with some of these big market teams or teams that are spending a lot of money, a lot of them are lumped together on one roster. So day in and day out, you have to compete against, and if you want to have success, beat the best players in the world. And then, like I said, the trend in all pro sports is a lot of them are now lumped together. So when that's the case, you're gonna, the cliche is you're gonna have to beat the best. But at the end of the day, having success against those teams, can come as a group as opposed to matching up man for man. Is this guy a better left fielder or, whoever it might be? I appreciate that, but be careful what you ask for. Or be careful what permission you give me.
Tony, can you describe your relationship with Jace over the years?
Yeah.
What are some of the advantages he's going to really provide to have you?
I don't think I've ever said this, but I got to walk on at Missouri because of my dad being a high school coach, and he had good players. And at Missouri, if you walk out of the facility, you come around the left field corner, and there was the old cages. The very first person I saw, because I was going to be the first one, I'm walking on, and the very first person I saw was Jace Tingler hitting in the cage. And Jace now is physical, but back then I think he was like, whatever he was, he's small. And I was like, who the hell's this guy? And then, it kind of boosted my immediate confidence. Maybe I can make this team. Well, it turns out he was our best player, and he was also our best competitor, and he also became one of my best friends. And a part of it was just, we like to work together. We used to go to the Thursday night practices and eavesdrop, because if you travel as the Texas Longhorns, you practice Thursday night at Missouri after we practice. So we'd linger around and eavesdrop on Augie Garrido and put extra time in the cage, but really it was watching the other team. Heck, one time OU's old coach thought I was a grounds crew guy and tipped me $100. So being friends with Jace has paid off. But then just because I'm enjoying talking about it, we'll go to the first year of coaching I had was the volunteer coach, and I was the outfield coach. So now all of a sudden I'm coaching Jace. And we about killed each other about 17 times that year. He's Drew's probably close, but he's probably the most intense player I've ever coached. And it's been fun watching his career. I guess he won the contest. I've always been trying to get him into college baseball, and he's always brought up pro baseball. But either way, we had a feeling we'd always work together one day.
Couple more. Played earlier, like to coach him at Tennessee.
Yeah, he's a psycho.
What do you think about the potential he has for active rotation next year?
Yeah, I think, it's fun watching some of the guys we've had, or, it is fun watching those guys you competed against. Now, when they have success, you can be like, I know who that guy is, and I thought he was a good player, and it's not. He's on Georgia's team trying to beat you. Blade's every bit as good or was better than some of the guys that are having real success in the big leagues right now. So I have high hopes for him. And I joke that he's psycho, and that's because he's so intense about getting better, and he really likes to compete. I think that's when a whole different personality comes out, is when he is between the lines. And I think, that combination is one that, the coaches have to be excited about working with, in particular, ones that are familiar with him already. So I've always been a fan of Blade, and he's one of those guys that was first to say no to pro ball and come to college. And, in college to have success, you got to have a certain amount of those guys. And he and Drew were kind of the first two to do that, along with Jordan Beck.
You mentioned this is a period of transition for you, but a couple months in, how would you assess the needs on the roster?
I think it's a really fun roster when you look at it's almost kind of got a parallel to a college team because there's high turnover, with guys graduating or getting drafted. You've got a solid group of guys that are solidified as, at the very least, this is their role, or we expect this guy to be our everyday this or that. And then there's also open competition at several spots, whether it be on the position side or the pitching side. So I think the combination is good to already have a quality roster, but the whole point of recruiting or front office conversations are the ones we're having here is where can we improve things? And I think a cool thing is a heavy emphasis of our conversations up there has been how can we improve the players we currently have? So some of those needs might be filled by a guy just finding his true self or getting more experience. But I also think, there's ambition, with 29 other teams too, to, add on either side of the ball that could complement things.
New Japanese player come to the Major League Baseball. If you know any new player this season, please let me know your impression of them.
I don't have any particular experience with new player, but I think the one thing that's interesting to see is, the crossover of there's a different style that I think comes from each culture that's represented in playing baseball, but at the same time, they're all battling the same thing. It's a long-term success that everybody's shooting for, and managing those, a lot of your background can play into that. And how can you handle it? Are you disciplined enough? Are you tough enough? And other attributes to it. So it's something that's been fun for me to see, whether it's watching Team USA or seeing guys from different countries coming into college. That's one area I think college can improve is I don't see why there can't be more diversity in the college game, especially with online classes and Zoom and things like that now. And then, of course, watching pro baseball, too, seeing how some of those, different cultures play into a guy's career.
Good.
Yeah, thank you all. I don't know who it was, but I did not need to say I don't know what to say anymore. He was getting upset with me.